It's okay.
There are no risks to this interview other than that you won't be anonymous and we'll be using your name on the website. And there are no benefits to this other than you'll become part of the history of Washington Park. If you do wish to redact any information, you can contact our professor, Dr. Arajikson. His contact details are here. Do you agree to this?
Yes.
Okay, just get used to this.
Send the other one too.
That's good. Do you want to sign this one too?
If you want me to
Yeah.
be part of the
Might as well.
documentation.
Your corners are so sensitive.
I
You
am-
hear the pen going across the paper.
Really?
Mm.
Oh. Can you hear the footsteps? No.
All right, now.
That's good.
Okay. So this is Elizabeth, Matt and Wei. It's June 17th. We're here with Tommy. Could you quickly introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Tommy Ying. I am an undergrad in architecture at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. I am also a Hmong resident here in Washington Park. I've been living here for 3 years.
So, can we ask you about what your first impression was of the neighborhood when you first arrived?
When I first arrived here in Washington Park, I came from Appleton, and it was a big cultural shock in a way. Just the population here is very diverse. It was very, in a way, sketchy. I didn't want to go outside. When I came back home from studio late, I was, like nervous about like people like shooting me or something. But it was an assumption from someone who came from a city that's predominantly white.
So, what was the reason for your moving?
For my
For moving?
oh,
yeah.
because I needed to come to the university. That's why I moved. And also I didn't have that much money, so I decided to live with my aunt and uncle here. So it was kind of like a choice in a way, but at the same time it was, there wasn't really many other options instead of dormitory. But it was, it was like a choice that was turned out to be good in a way, because it proved that a lot of my assumptions are wrong from when I first moved here.
So, would you say there are any like good differences compared to where you lived before in here?
I don't know if there's like, or like, should we call it good differences? Because every place have their, they're all good. It's just how you make out of it. And Washington Park is it's a very it's a very unique neighborhood, a neighborhood that's very diverse, a neighborhood that is filled with a population that no one really knows about. And being here for 3 years and working or like just through research and through the everyday interaction with the people here, I believe that the neighborhood is very rich, filled with so many different colors. Um, there are so many things or activities that's always going on. But it's not like being kind of distributed or kind of showing off to the rest of the city of Milwaukee, because the city knows this neighborhood as the bad, you know, filled with crime neighborhood, and you know it's just this richness that like you feel like that you don't get when where you're going to like River West or like the Third Ward. um, you just don't have this kind of diverse and unique feeling of the neighborhood itself, even though like a lot of the vacant lots and a lot of the um, abandoned house are here in the neighborhood. It's because of what the city is doing that's really causing this neighborhood to turn into that kind of image. um, yeah.
You said that there's people here that other people don't know about, almost as if they're like hidden. Could you explain more about
So
what you
like
mean by that?
what I mean about that is there are residents here who are just they no one knows them, like no one knows them. And um, it's just even as a student, when we're going to school or like studying urban planning or architecture, like these neighborhoods are never talked about. And it's these neighborhoods that like a lot of activities and like in in you know in culture and tradition that's like really happening here. Like if we walk down this block, no one will know each other. um, you know if we are assuming from a viewpoint or a standpoint of view of someone who lives out in the suburban areas or like somewhere out of here. um, and but then if you look closely, the neighbors actually knows each other and they actually look out for each other. And so this assumption about that, this neighborhood is bad, everyone hides in their houses, is wrong. And that's why I said that no one, like these families are kind of ignored and they're not getting their stories out because we use this assumption, or like people who don't visit this neighborhood often and don't really care about this neighborhood assume that the people who live here are just, in a lack of a better word, um, just random. They don't have a home or something. They're just hiding, hopefully to get better or something.
So do you have a relationship with any of your neighbours? Like what's that relationship like?
At first I don't. It was, and it's again going back to that assumption, like, why should I talk with them when there might be a chance that I might get shot at or something like that because I came from a predominantly white neighborhood. Um, but now I do after working with Professor Sen, after just going out there and volunteering at Habitat, volunteering at HAFA. You get to know the people who are actually spending their time to come into the neighborhood and help the neighborhood, and then the people themselves in the neighborhood who are actually wanting to see change in their neighborhood, wanting to see a redevelopment, a revitalization of the neighborhood, so it will become better. This blighted image of the neighborhood or this image that the neighborhood is a dying neighborhood and it's a gray zone in the city of Milwaukee could be removed. Um, and so now, when I go out, I know like I don't know them at a personal level, but now I know them as they're a friend. Like you see them so much through running, through volunteering, that they're welcoming, and you can stop by their porch and talk with them now. So there's like a few Hmong families here that I know, and then there's a few African American families near the corner of 41st that I kind of know because I walk along the street all the time.
And you spoke a little bit about like the changes that people want to see in the neighbourhood. What kind of changes do you want to see or would like to see?
I think from a standpoint talking about like investments or talking about things such as redevelopment within the commercial area, maybe to see if there's more public spaces, like it becomes something like, what is it? I can't explain the word, but a walkable mixed-use commercial areas like Brady Street, like Brady Street, or like what is it? Water Street, like Brady Street or Water Street, where there are, I guess in a way it's not like pockets, but then like nodes of like stores that it's the walkable distances for the neighborhood or the surrounding neighborhood or like the population within the neighborhood to be able to access to. In more public spaces, of course, there's a lot of vacant lots here in the neighborhood, and I feel like if people or like just someone who are willing to put in the effort to make these lots more like better, or like just give it like a little aesthetic tweak, everyone in the neighborhood would respect that a lot more and use it for a place to gather, a place to or a place to just hang out and create this interconnection between the different population or like the different races within the neighborhood, which the neighborhood needs too. So the three main changes that I want to see is the growth in businesses, restaurants. It's a huge thing, as we all see. On the first day, there wasn't a place to go to eat, except McDonald's. So that creates its own little problem itself, in like obesity and things that's happening in the neighborhood. Second thing is more public spaces. Like, can we reclaim the vacant lots within the neighborhood and change it to something that is actually giving back to the neighborhood? And I'm not just talking about urban gardens, because that's the easiest way the city can get out of like changing these lots is relying on community gardens, which in a way it's a good thing, that the neighborhood is providing food for itself, but at the same time it's at the same time, community gardens don't provide that sense of public space, of community gathering, if you're not a gardener. So we have to tackle the different social groups within the neighborhood itself. Like, the young population to the older population who can, you know, actually look at the younger population. So we have to find a way to balance out this reclaiming the void issue. And then what was the third one? There was too many ambulances coming around. Um, third one, maybe it'll come back.
And so you think that there should definitely be more restaurants kind of open?
Yes. To me, I believe that if there are more restaurants, then the people will actually start investing in those restaurants. Like, you know, now there's like Amaranth Cafe, and a lot of people go there, but you know it's still just one little like restaurant within the neighborhood. And the Washington Park neighborhood is a huge neighborhood, you know, and it might not be like walking distances from the people who lives further away from Amaranth. So, you know, if the people give restaurants, or like the city or whoever starts the business, give restaurants into the neighborhood, then the people will start using that restaurant and start utilizing that restaurant. Um, you know, the assumption that the neighborhood is bad, no one's gonna come and eat here, is very, in a way, it's very dumb, because like, why don't you be the first one to create a restaurant in the neighborhood, or allow someone to create a restaurant in the neighborhood where there is no restaurants and people are actually like, you know, constantly like looking for food, or constantly trying to figure out a way to like get to a place where there is food. Um, so that assumption isn't one that is good. It's coming from the idea that the neighborhood is predominantly poor and no one's gonna be able to afford it, or no one's gonna like care about it because it's a restaurant, you know, when they can go to McDonald's or something. But you know, as you can see, Amaranth Cafe, it's working really well. You know, it gives, you know, people work. You know, I mean, like, it's not a lot of work, but there's some people who's able to get jobs there now. It's also giving people a place of like community gathering. So it's like tackling so many issues instead of just being a restaurant. It's a place to gather, a place to meet new people, a place where all of these activists and all of these great community minds come together so they can help the neighborhood succeed and move to the next level, and not just, you know, still create this image of the gray zone in the city of Milwaukee.
I was wondering if we could talk a little bit about the house here,
Sure.
and if you could talk a little bit about food, because when we were measuring in here the other day, and it smelled pretty amazing, and maybe bring in some of your experiences about food in relation to
Home.
Hmong people.
Home in Hmong
Yeah.
people? Okay. So, I don't know about like other cultures or like other races, but like food to the Hmong is like so important. Like, it's very important. When we're talking about place, usually food is always involved. Um, and you know, a flashback, or not like a flashback, but like everyday sensory that I have to go through is, you know, I this the sense of smell, you know, when you enter a place, you know, in the Hmong food, you know, you can, or like in traditional Hmong food, or like everyday Hmong food, um, rice is a big, it plays a big role. depending on the rice you eat, but like traditional like um, rice that the Hmong people actually eat, there's a smell to it. And the story, one of the houses we measured for the field school, I'm using that because that was the most present that it happened to me, was we went to the house and they were steaming rice, and like the sense of smell was just so powerful that's like it makes your mouth water, and at the same time it's like, you know, this is home. Like it feels like home. It's um the idea of homeliness and the idea of like, you know, of comfort, that food just kind of takes you back and throw you back and be like, that's like when my mom cooked for me. That's like when I'm sitting in my, you know, in my bedroom and mom is setting out the table and the food is like, you know, kind of just roaming or like seeping into like the crevices of the walls and the doors, and it's just like, you know, luring me out. um, and so food plays a really big role. You know, and the idea that, you know, we call it traditional Hmong food is not really traditional. We Because the Hmong people don't have a land, don't have um, a place where they call specifically their country or their homeland. Our identity is now created in the 21st century from Pan Asian ingredients. You know, like if you go to like a Hmong store, there will be items from Thailand, items from Laos, China, Korea, Japan, and we're starting to shape this new identity in modern culture about who we are. Um, you know, and who the Hmong people are, identity wise and food wise. Um, you know, if we are gonna talk about Hmong people in China, um, the Miao, you know, they're creating an identity from the Chinese culture. So, and then we're talking people about the Hmong in France. They're creating an identity from the French culture. And so the idea that the Hmong don't have a country really, really creates, you know, pockets of Hmong people instead of, you know, this one grand, we are Hmong, we are like the same, we eat like about the same food. It's all Pan Asian, or it's all a pan identity, not just um, one. You know, like there's like a Hmong section. It's just gonna be Hmong.
Could you like describe a typical day in the house, and also like still in relation to the food and the procession of cooking?
All right.
That would be really interesting for us.
All right. So the typical day in the house, well, there's not much. If we're talking about
And your routine involved.
all right. So a typical day, I will not be in the home long. I'm always on the go, and never get home until late, and so I don't get to see stuff. But during the weekends, what wakes up, or like most of the time that wakes me up, is when my aunt is cooking. That's what wakes me up, because you know, you can hear the pots clanging, you can hear things simmering, you can hear her blasting out music, you can hear her like her the smell of the food, and then you're like, oh, you know, it's the morning, you know, and food is almost ready, so I might as well get up, you know. And throughout the day, this idea of food is like constantly like in the role, because it's like, okay, we have the first meal done, what are we gonna have for lunch? We have lunch done, what are we gonna have for dinner? And so throughout, you know, I don't know like how they see it, but for me, who loves food, um, it it becomes something that like your eye have to catch out for. Like it's like, okay, I walk, I'm going out, taking the car out from the garage, so I walk past the kitchen. You like sense ingredients to see what you can make for the next meal. Or like if I'm craving something, you try to sense out the ingredients while you're walking past. That like 10 seconds or like 5 seconds you're walking past the kitchen, and it's you know I guess in a way it becomes a habit, or it might just be me, like an individual, to start seeing these things and like actually, if I see an onion, I see some panda sauce, I see some rice noodles. It's like you're cooking your mind. You're like, oh, we can make stir fry noodles, or we can make like pho, or we can make pasta or something. So this daily routine revolves around this idea. Okay, what am I gonna get for my next meal? And like, sometimes when we're at school, it's like, okay, I'm gonna go to Burger King, because I don't. You don't see those ingredients, and at the same time, you're like you're cooking in your head, but like you're like in studio drawing or writing a paper, Um, so a daily routine for me revolves around food, um, and thinking about your next meal. It becomes, my grandma always says that, um, keeping your is it keeping your mind keep, keeping your mind full, but you should also think about your stomach. Because if you run on an empty stomach, then you can't feel your mind anymore or something. I don't know. It sounds better in Hmong, but I can't place the words together. Um, but, you know, in a way, I take it as if you don't eat today, then after that, you don't know what's going to happen after that. You might not live anymore or something. So food becomes very important in a daily life of mine. Maybe my grandma also. Um, and just talking about my daily routines itself, during the school year, I am never home. I'm at school. But the idea that we actually like roam the house is very, very small. It's either from my room to the kitchen or from my room outside. Um, I don't usually use the public space, or the living room or the entertainment room. Um, and I don't know if that's weird or something, but it's like there's one room where I stay in, and then it's either I need to eat and come back to my room, or I go out to do my duties. And so that might be something weird that you find about me. Um, we do use the front door, um, at least I do, but sometimes we use the back door if we park in the garage. Um, and we never really roam down here. It's usually used for a storage area, but we do keep our food down here. So, food, 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 food.
Do you know how to cook well, or has your aunt taught you any recipes?
I think because I'm actively, like I said before, always looking at ingredients and trying to cook in my head, I learn I learn how to cook through that. I learn how to taste or sense the tastes in meals, so I can provide that same taste for the food. Um, One of my favorite dish is pad thai. It's so good. But back then, I didn't have that much money, so like for me to be able to like, get like a plate of pad thai, it was like something. Like it was like a miracle in a way. Um, and so I learned how to taste these things, and then I'll go back home and I'll like pour out all of the sauces that we have in our cabinet, and then I'll like taste the sauce one by one until like I can sense the pad thai taste. And so that's why even today when I cook, I I use some of the weirdest stuff ever to like get that taste, and I never like use and in a way it's like making food from scratch. But I never ever use like a cheat way like okay, there's a bottle for pad thai sauce, like why won't you just use that? But I choose to use like egg roll sauce, panda sauce, sriracha, and all of those that to get my taste to that level of the pad thai taste. So this daily routine of me like getting like like always cooking or like in my head becomes something that I like use to find out the ingredients of other food. Um, it's still hard with a lot of like food like pasta and stuff because I can't taste herbs, but in like a lot of the Asian food where I'm really used to, where I am really used to, I can start tasting the difference in the sauces and the difference in the Asian spices that actually really guide me towards being able to cook well in a way that everyone likes. Um, but other than that, then I was the eldest son in my family, and so a lot of the cooking had to be done by me and my mom. But most of the time, it was done by me. So it's like trial and error. Like you cook, it doesn't taste good, you throw away, you recook. um, so it's food has became it's kind of mold me in a way, like give me like a sense of responsibility, but at the same time, it's played a big role in like my life itself as a Hmong student who didn't have a lot of money, um, and living in like the American dream kind of thing where like people gets to go eat out most of the time, or like they had really good food to eat while I'm stuck with pig feet and rice. So the the idea of food and ingredients and things molds the way I think, the way I kind of live, the way I move about in the society of like anywhere I live, um, and it gives a sense of responsibility. Like if you think about cooking itself, you think about the ingredients first, and then you take it to the steps of or the process of making a food, and that's how I kind of think about life now. It's like, all right, I should think as a Hmong student about the things that I am at a disadvantage with, the things I'm at advantages with, and then use it in my life in a way that I can succeed in a society that's so different from just myself, or like a society that the Hmong people are trying to create their own identity out of. And so like the Hmong identity itself is like a plate of food where you're using a little ingredients of this culture, a little ingredients of that culture, and actually creating a new identity that tries to uniform itself as the Hmong people itself.
And I think that food is something that can like totally just bring you back
Right.
immediately.
Right.
Like, so I thought maybe you could tell us a little bit about the difference in like home and family from where you are now, from when you were growing up.
Okay. So home and family here, just comparing two families that I'm living with now, my aunt and uncle, and my family at home. Here it's more modern. My aunt and uncle are super uber nice, but I never get to see them because I'm always out. Um, so the sense of family here is just it comes from trust. It comes from this idea of I know that my aunt and uncle will always be there at home, you know, uh, waiting for me when I go home. So this is family here living in Milwaukee, um, and they're always welcoming. And like the first thing you hear, you know, Saturday morning is, wake up, like the sun is already out. It's so late, but it's only like 8 a.m. um, and then comparing it to like a more traditional, more cultural, fabricated family, my in the past, or like where I come from, um, parents, my parents, um, are like that, but at the same time, it's like we leave our we kind of leave our parents or grandparents in behind of our minds. Our siblings become more of a drive of like of this typical Hmong family, and then you think of your parents as kind of like the chief of the house, um, but the children are like, all right, who wakes up first? The children wakes up first. They're like running the house, running around the house, playing on TV, Nickelodeon, and like crying that they want food. And that sense of like a Hmong family, like so different from now. Like in a way, it's more dramatic. It's like a drama series or melodrama or something. Um, but the the typical Hmong family where I come from is bonded through like a lot of these, little new like nuances that new I think it's nuances of like little daily matters, like of kids running around the house, my dad getting angry, my mom's like heavily cooking like big meals because we have like eight to I think 8 children in the house, and then the family itself is like 13 people, and so it's like the nuance of the sound of my dad screaming, the sound of my mom like heavily stirring the stir fry, the sound of the kids like crying and like running around, the sounds of the TV going on, and then overall just this mess inside of your house, like inside of your head, trying to comprehend all of these things at the same time brings you the sense of family, the sense of I am home, the sense of, you know, even though it's like not comfortable at all, you're comfortable, you know. And so the Hmong family, like if you see or look into more of the traditional Hmong families, you go inside and you'll see like you'll smell food and sauces and everything, and then you'll be hearing so many kids talking and like bothering you with each other, and then you'll see the dad like trying to watch TV and yelling, and then you'll just see the mom in the kitchen. So that becomes a sense of home and bond within myself. So now living here in Washington Park, it's calm. My aunt and uncle are the one usually home, and everything's like usually quiet. So it's like two polar ends of a typical Hmong family and like bonding of a typical Hmong family.
So how is the actual house different from the one you grew up in?
The house itself is particularly small. Just talking like house wise, but the house, or like I guess in a way like the aura of the house itself, the idea of homeliness is usually calm. Usually not much is going on, and I've learned how to shape myself around that. Story, first year I came here, I missed home a lot, And it's not like because, oh man, I miss my mom. It's like I feel awkward. Like this idea of home and this idea of like comfortable, warmth inside of yourself wasn't there. I come here, it's like it's quiet. There's no kids running around. Food is not smelling that much. Everyone's doing their own thing, and so it's like, how do I live like this? Like, and I was sad. I was depressed. It might be because I miss just home itself or my parents, but if you really think about it, it's like all of these things that I come from, where like the kids are running around, my mom's is always actively cooking, my dad's actively yelling, TV was always playing, the PlayStation 3 was always on. You can hear the air conditioner coming out of the HVAC system. I don't know. I forgot what that thing is. But like all of these noises and the sights and the sounds and the smells are missing from this house, and it's like, wow, like this is like a whole different sense of a family among family, but like a family in general. Like you don't see, like you just don't have all these things going through your mind to make you feel like, wow, I am home. Like you don't have that warmth inside of you anymore. um, but now it's like, oh, it's just like a different sense of family. um, but you know this really is the difference between the two homes that I've been in, um, aura wise, or like the warmth wise of comfortable, being comfortable and family home. Um, but then talking about the two, like at a larger neighborhood where Washington Park is always active. There are always people walking around. Cars are always driving by. Ambulances. And then going back to Appleton where I live, it's like so quiet. So like it's like the things are reverted inside of itself. Like inside the house here, everything's quiet and calm, but outside it's like active. Like a lot of people call it the war zone. And then back home it's like outside is like all quiet, but then the inside is like war zone for me. It's like I have to like make sure things are calm, but like so active and warm me inside.
There's 8 children living there.
Yes. I have 4 brothers. 1, 2. Actually, there's 10 children. 4 brothers. Adding me is 5 boys, and then 5 sisters. So 10 children, not 8. 10 children. 10 children running around the house, including with my parents. That's 12, and then my grandmother 13. So we live in a 4-bedroom house. So we use one of the storage room in the basement as a living bedroom too. So, and then here it's a 3-bedroom house, but with like four people, 4 students living here, and then my aunt and my uncle. So it's kind of more quiet, less drama.
Where did your grandma live in the house then?
My grandma lived in one of the bedrooms. So she owned one of her own bedroom, with one of my youngest sister. So the idea of among family being the hierarchy is divided. So it's like my parents' room, that's first thing, they get first pick, and then my grandma, and then the kids who gets to fight over the remaining rooms.
Is your family religious at all?
My family at home is uh, shamans. So they're traditional Hmong religion, and then I'm a Christian. Also living here, we're all my aunt and uncle are Christians, so we're Christians here in the Washington Park neighborhood, and then my family is not.
I'm wondering if there's like any ways that you, back home, the home and the layout of the home was choreographed, like, in a way which reflects the shaman.
Okay, so like the Hmong home, from my knowledge, the Hmong home have a shrine, and so a lot of the things within the Hmong home is choreographed along with the shrine, and the shrine is to the ancestors, and so we use that for like offering, or we use that as for praying. So the Hmong shrine, or the shaman shrine, I would say, usually is in the public space or the public room, the living space, and that is usually geared so that the shrine is either like facing the door, or actually no, the shrine is always facing the door, but then you can, like in a queue, it's like, okay, the shrine is always facing the door, unless for one of the sides, two of the sides. So the shrine has to always be facing the door, and then that's how the living space is choreographed. And then the rest of the room or the rest of the house itself stays the same. I don't think there's things that aren't allowed in the house, or like it can't be choreographed in a way in the house. I think all of the things are fine except for the living space that's hold shrines.
And what about your house here?
So here, it's more modern. Being a Christian, we don't think about shrines and stuff, and so things are not. It's just composed the way we want it to. We use a living space as a living space, but we divided it in half. So my aunt and uncle can use it as a workspace or an office space, and then we have the dining room, which we don't really use it as a dining room, but like a place, just like another place for people to sit around. But things here are not as, it's more modernized, more temporary, not having to deal with like shrines and stuff.
And your uncle seems interesting to me because he's seems like he's got a lot of things going on, like his radio show and like to build a restaurant down here. Are you involved in the plans of the restaurant here? Helping out?
Yeah, sometimes I help him like try to reconstruct some of the stuff, like the ceiling. He had me come down and like hold a stick so he can like put the boards up there. But I'm actually trying to help him fight for like grants and stuff so we can reconstruct some of the stuff we are doing down here. So he can actually start opening a restaurant here in Washington Park neighborhood. Like what I was talking about in the beginning. If we give a restaurant to the neighborhood, then the neighborhood will utilize it, and so it's moving along slow, but it's still moving along. And my uncle have really great dreams for the neighborhood itself, but that's his story.
So he has like, are there specific things that he wants to see change in the neighborhood, and like what is important to him, and do you think the same things are important to you?
From what I believe, community and redevelopment is really important to him, and to me that's the same. The only way that a neighborhood or like a population within the city will thrive or succeed is that they have this sense of unification. And it goes back to the idea of, you know, having spaces to gather, having spaces to bring in the great minds of the neighborhood or the population so that they can come to a consensus or an agreement that they should take this route or that route to help the community succeed. Um, the overall idea of community and unification then will allow for the path of redevelopment, revitalization to happen within the neighborhood, to bring in more commercial or retail or restaurants, um, businesses here. And so, you know, if you, like Jane Jacobs, you know, if you give people a place to walk, they'll walk. If you give them um, the ability to watch over each other, they'll start watching over each other. So.
Do you go back home to visit at all?
I used to. I do. I used to do it a lot, because being the eldest, just talking about Hmong people or Hmong families itself, being the eldest in a Hmong family is like, and the son, you know, it's like you are entitled to carry the family in the future. You are entitled to lead, you know, become among one of the clan leaders in the future to lead the people, the Hmong people, so that they'll keep succeeding generations after generations. And so I went back home a lot for meetings with my father, just to show my face to a lot of the clan members. So this idea of you know, trying to gain power within the hierarchy of the clan members, you know, like the only thing I can think of is like Naruto and ninjas or something, you know. But you know, to maintain that position and of becoming a leader within the community is huge. So I used to go home a lot. Even here, Washington Park or in the city of Milwaukee, the you know, students are just being, or like Hmong students are being labeled as, okay, he's a gangster, okay, he's a college student, maybe he'll become a leader, okay, that guy is a bum, he doesn't do anything. So the idea of this social class, like social division within the Hmong community itself becomes a problem. But then, you know, if it's seen as good and less judgment, then it'll be a way for us to unify the Hmong people also.
And are there any leaders or people that guide you in your life that are kind of significant?
There are a lot of leaders. A lot of people were members or leaders of the clan I grew up in, really helped me out, really molded who I am today. You know, an activist, someone who's trying to give back to the community, someone who wants to help out, and a lot of, you know, and then that becomes a problem. It's like, you know, it's either you become a leader within the Hmong community who gives back, who tries to help people, or you become, you know, you go to school, become rich, and forget who you are. So that's something that really needs to be tackled within the neighborhood. Here also, you know, oh, you have to unlock it. So so that's a problem. The idea of labeling, okay, he's gonna become a leader. He's a Hmong bum who does nothing. He's a gangster. I feel like that's a problem, but in a way, if we do it right and stop judging, like, you know, he's a gangster, he can't change, he is a bomb, he can't change within the Hmong community, and the leaders or those who are going to become leaders actually landing a hand back, to, you know, for those people who can't move out of that position, then the Hmong people can, take a step and succeed a little bit once at a time.
Do you have any memories or stories relating to these kind of relationships?
So, I'll use one of my experiences at Hafa, or yeah, Hafa. So I go there sometimes to visit the grandmas of Hafa, and they're there because I think it's like senior daycare or hangout place, um, and so this idea of I want to become a leader um, in the community itself and a leader within the Hmong people itself. And so like if you're trying to become a leader, then you try to get or try to know those people, the older generations people and the younger. And so I go there every day, or not every day, but like sometime, once a week or something, and you'll like talk with them, and they're like, "Oh, we are so blessed. We are so blessed that you are here. You will become like you have a bright future. You're always reaching back to us. Um, you have, qualities that no one other people have." And so it's like, it's not like you're trying to boast yourself, or you're trying to make them, like buy their support, but it's like the acts that you're just doing, like just visiting them and talking with them, and then, like eat popcorn with them, it just creates a sense within yourself as a Hmong student that, wow, like it's because of them that I'm here. And so like if I'm able to like just talk with them and like hear their stories, because they're always like seeping with stories that's coming out of their mouth that they want to tell people, but like people just don't listen to it, then it creates quality within yourself that you're gonna, like learn how to listen to people. You're gonna learn how to respect people's stories, and like start molding yourself, my identity as among the stories, because you know and it goes back to the idea of a single story. Like not all Hmong people like are um, gangsters. Not all Hmong people really suffered that much during the Vietnam War. Not all Hmong people live in Washington Park like I do. So if we can just start writing this story about the Hmong and its identity through our past, through our stories, through leadership, and not labeling, then we'll be able to unify as a community, especially here within the Washington Park, to bring or show the city of Milwaukee that there is a community here, so that they invest in the community.
And how long have you been taking these visits to Hafa?
Hafa, it's not so long ago. It's like maybe a semester, so I say 6, 7 months. Because for all seriousness, I didn't know that they do that. So that was not too long. But just growing up in high school, I worked with a lot of kids, Hmong students, elementary and middle schoolers. And again, that it's like trying to reach back to the community, but at the same time, start paving this idea of unification within the community. Um, so I used to, or not I used to, but like, oh yeah, I used to work with Hmong students, and then now I'm trying to work with the elders and see or like make myself more rounded within the idea of the Hmong people. And
I'm sorry, but can you explain what Hafa is?
Hafa is the Hmong American Friendship Association. It's located here in Washington Park on Valley Street, and it's an org or like a nonprofit. I think. I think it's a nonprofit org that, in a way, tries to help guide the Hmong families in the city of Milwaukee, um, and help them with housing. They have food pantries Mondays and Fridays, I think. And not so long ago, I just found out that they have a senior daycare where old grandmas just go in there, chill, watch movies, eat popcorn, and eat and talk and gossip. So it's a really homey place. I mean, like not in the front when you go in, but like in the back where like all of the older generation people are at. It's very homey. It's very warm and friendly. So.
And what kind of stories did these older people have to tell you?
So a lot of the stories was revolving around the idea of home, the idea of place, the idea that dates back to the Vietnam War. What like they'll talk about the mountains, the regions that they used to live and like to walk, the lands that they used to carve inside to plant for food, the paths that they had to take throughout the Vietnam War, elephants that they've seen along the way running from the soldiers. Um, so the stories of being misplaced within a society becomes a main thematic or a main theme in all of the stories. You know, the longing or the craving to go back to where they used to live becomes something that haunts them every day. The idea, or of death becomes something that they await for, to see, or to just maybe one day be able to go back to the lands that they used to live, where they call home. And so, stories like that pops up all the time when you're talking with older generations who actually survived the war. Um, they're always longing to find a place where they can call home, a place where they can live the Hmong way, or like the ways that they used to live in the past.
So through death, they believe that they will go back to their home.
In a way, they in traditional Hmong shamanism, they believe that through death, they'll go back to the place where they originated from.
I think that's really cool how they're just kind of they're willing and like they want someone to come. They want to be able to tell their stories
Right.
to them.
Right. And I think that's very important. You know, in a way, it's like for the Hmong students like me to be able to connect back to who we are. A lot of Hmong students today are neglecting the idea that they are Hmong. A lot of the students think, you know, being able to speak Hmong is being Fabi or like fresh off the boat. Have you seen the show, right? So being too Asian or being like too Hmong, and it's a problem. It's a big problem. Why? Because language is something that our identity really molds around. Being Hmong people, we don't have a written language, and so the idea of oral history and oral talking about the past through communicating verbal communications is a huge thing. So if you lose the power to talk in your own language, then you lose who you are. And that's the only way that we are differentiating ourselves from, the other Asians, like from Thai, Laos, Chinese, Japanese, Koreans, is our language. Like we relatively look similar. Maybe we have darker skin tones, but if we don't have the Hmong language anymore, then who are we? If we don't have the past, our ancestors' past written in our minds, then we won't know where we come from. And the idea that it's in a way, I think it's very, very immature for a lot of the Hmong students today that, we came from Laos because of the Vietnam War. That's only a small fragment of our history. And to be able to be like, it's to talk about, it's because of the Americans that we're here, or it's like the Caucasian people who kind of led us to this place, is very immature. In a way, it's not. In a way, it's factual. Yes, we were allies with them, but in a way, if we can't talk about the Hmong people and talk about their history and the good things that happened, then it's like you're talking about the single story, You're talking, like you're making it sound like all the Hmong people lived in Laos, in which, even in modern time America, a lot of people who don't know about the Hmong people thinks that we're from Laos, that there's like a Hmong country there, but there isn't. And so I feel like the Hmong students should go back and ask their grandparents, or just reach back to like anyone who's older and start talking about these things and trying to make sense of these things.
Sounds a lot about like movement, like part of the Hmong culture is about movement and
Yes.
moving from
Yes.
not just places but
Yes.
ideas and home and
Mhm.
family.
Yeah. So it's a movement, and it's the idea of generation clash that's really, I don't know, in a way I have like no words to explain it, but it's been a long I guess a long time that the Hmong people are here in America, and just through talking with the older generations, it's about time for us to kind of start unifying ourselves.
And you used to work with like Hmong youth,
Mhm.
so how are their stories different from the stories of the elderly?
All right, so the two differences, or like the differences between the two, is that there's two, we're talking about two viewpoints that are, kind of molded through the experiences they have or had. the youth are more, I guess, in a way, ignorant about the past, ignorant about who they are. You know, the idea that we're all born in America, that means we're American. That means we don't need to really worry about where we originated. So a lot of the Hmong youth I've worked with are like, okay, like I don't care about speaking Hmong, or I don't care about the Vietnam War because that was in the past. Um, I just, I just want to become a doctor or a breakdancer or a rapper. That's all they care about. But then the elders are always they're trying to pull these students back and be like, you are Hmong. You should remember the Vietnam War, but you should also remember that we came from Laos, we came from China. You know, we have people in France, we have people in China. So that idea that the youth is longing to be someone else, like Chinese, Japanese, Korean, while the elders are trying to pull them back to being who they are. And I know this from like my personal experience. Like I always wanted to be Korean. Like that's it. Like if I was born a Korean, my life will be so much happier. Um, and that's because again it's negligence. It's the fact that you know we don't have a land. The Hmong people, like you don't have things to boast about, like in my country, da 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 da, or like this is my own written language, because we use what is it? We use letters, um, Romanized letters for for writing in modern day. So it's like, oh, okay, but that's not really our characters. And so we don't have a written language or a written way to communicate except for the Romanized letters, and then we don't have a place where we call our homeland. It's like Hmong people really. So this negligence of becoming Hmong is like, or being a Hmong person in the society is like, you know, it sucks. It's like, oh man, why am I Hmong? Why can't I be like Chinese or something? I wish I can like change my skin color or something. Um, and so it's like, it's a rough, it, you know, it's a rough transition to like accepting who you are. But then if you just realize as a Hmong student, like, from my story, that you see all of the things that our ancestors have gone through, like the Vietnam War, and like the idea of movement again, like we moved so many places from China to like Laos to Thailand and now to America and around the world. It's like it's a very unique population race. Not all population are like this. They don't have this type of story. So
And so, what were you like when you were young? Do you think you had similar kind of ideas or ignorances as you were talking about? And how did you find the transition into like being more accepting of your?
so yes, I was a really ignorant student. Um, you know, as a high schooler, it was like at the peak, because you're trying to find out who you are, in high school. So it's like I was at the peak. I was like, like, why am I Hmong? I learned the Korean language. Try to move away from being Hmong. And like I've always thought I was gonna become like K-pop star or something, and I'm gonna like make it big. I'm not gonna like become Hmong. I'm not gonna marry a Hmong person. I'm not gonna like even think about the Hmong people. So that was like my whole high school. It was being ignorant, being like like being negligent about the idea of being Hmong. And then I guess it just came with the coming of age, that it's like talking with your grandma, like talking with my grandma, talking with the older people and actually realizing by working with the youth and stuff, um, the Hmong youth, that we are kind of stupid. Like we're moving in a way that's really dumb, and the only way, like the only reason why like races are the way they are, like the Chinese, Japanese, the Caucasian, African Americans are the way they are because they learn how to accept themselves, and that gave them a sense of unification, so that they were able to move forward as a community, as a race. And so I started to realize that, and then I, you know, try to reach back more, try to learn more about who I am, who my people originated from. And that just brought me to accept that, I'm a Hmong person, like, yeah, like, it kind of sucks, but then there's no one else there who can be talking about, people who doesn't have a land, people who doesn't have a written language, people who had to suffer like for 30 years after the war and are still going strong today. So
Do you think moving to Washington Park had a role in that kind of transition?
I think I accepted the idea of being Hmong before I came to Washington Park. So Washington Park was not much of a role in like the transition of myself to accept me being Hmong and start using like my language more and becoming one of the FOB people that a lot of the Hmong students still call me. But I think Washington Park itself is a neighborhood that led me to the opportunities that I was able to take to talk about the idea of leadership, the idea of giving back, the idea of trying to get these Hmong students to realize that, or to not take the path of negligence and ignorance, and to actually realize that the Hmong, or being a Hmong student or a Hmong person itself, is very unique and powerful and colorful in its own ways. So Washington Park was not a transition help support myself and like, yes, you are Hmong, you're awesome, but more of, all right, so since you know you're Hmong, what can you do with it, and how can you fortify this this identity to the people who are there?
And what was one of the first things you did, like one of the first actions that you're talking about that you're able to do here?
So one of the first actions I did was, when I got here, was I noticed Hafa was down over there, so I was like, okay, so like if I can like try to get some volunteer opportunities working with Hmong students, then I should contact them. So I did. I contacted them, and then I got into junior achievement, and then I started doing junior achievement at HAPA. It's the Hmong American Peace Academy, and there it's like basically like all Hmong students. So it's like little tiny Asian students everywhere, and so that was the first thing I was able to do. Like they weren't in particularly staying in Washington Park or from Washington Park, but the idea of getting those students and telling them about the Hmong story and how colorful that is kind of started me out. And then working with that for for a year or so, and then I found out about the older Hmong women and men at Hafa, and I started going there like once a week when I have time. And then Professor Sen told me that I can be doing stuff with Hmong people in Washington Park itself. Kind of helped me open another door for myself to work with people who I feel like I should be working with.
What stories are you interested in telling from the field school?
I think the stories that I really want to tell is the story of home and misplacement, and in a way that's very vague because it's like the story of home. All right, that's the story of family. That's the story of strength and bond. The story of the sights, the smells, the sounds. But if we are able to talk about the story of home, then we are able to reach back to the older generations who suffered through the war and knows the ways of the past to kind of bring the memories back to life. So that's the one thing that I really want to tackle is the idea of memory and space. What spaces in modern time America where the Hmong people are living draws back these memories from the past. Like in the Hmong kitchen, what's the smells? Like why most of the Hmong families have gardens in their backyards with plants and stuff. Like why do older people garden? Is it just because they want food, or is it because they feel the longing to reach back to the idea of being a Hmong person who gardens? So that's the story that I want to tell out to the city of Milwaukee and to America. This idea of space and the idea of memory or like to provoke memories from those spaces, homes and stuff.
Do you guys have any questions?
Yeah. Can you talk about a little bit about your college?
My college?
Yeah.
Like college life or?
Yeah.
Okay. So, transitioning to college was a hard thing. I was first generation in my family, and so in being a Hmong person, it's like the ideal Hmong, or traditional Hmong family would be like, you shouldn't go to college. You should just start working at the factory, making money, and support the family. So that's like that's the path laid out. More modern families are like, okay, you need to go to college, make more money. But from the family that I came from, that I know is more traditional, it was, you should start working and helping us pay rent. So transitioning to college life was really hard. Education in the Hmong community is looked at, it's not that great. It's like, even if you go to college, you're not even going to get a job. So it's a fight for. But I'm here. So college life or like transitioning was hard. College life itself is easier, but like sometimes my parents or my grandmother doesn't know like things that I'm doing, like the worth of it, like, and so it's hard to kind of like, all right, I'm doing these things. How am I gonna like tell back home, about the things I'm doing? So it becomes a power struggle with like trying to connect back and forth.
Right at the beginning, you spoke about safety in the area. Do you think you were more influenced by your own ideas about how safe the area was, or is there any experience you had that kind of lived up to that expectation or contradicted that expectation?
I think it's just America as as a nation who kind of accuse these areas as like the bad neighborhoods. Like you can see in the movies, like the ghettos and people shooting, and it's like, oh man, like I'm living in like the hood, the war zone, like people are gonna be shooting at me or something, So when I came here, that's what I kind of thought. I would like wait outside in my car for like good 11 minutes, like watching back and forth, just to make sure that no one like is out there like trying to like will come and tackle me down, steal some money or something. So this idea of Washington Park neighborhood being one of the blighter areas and being like the ghetto of Milwaukee, um, kind of provoked these ideas that I got from TVs and the ideas I got from news, um, to kind of form this assumption that I might get killed just walking out of my car or something. So it was just that. No, it wasn't. It wasn't like anything else. It was just the idea, like the TV, like seeing it on TV and news, seeing, um, what's advertised out there. That really built this assumption about the neighborhood.
Do you see maybe your Hmong friends adapt in different ways to American culture than you maybe have?
Yes, in a way. A lot of my, and that again depends on where they live. I live here now, so I've gotten to see more, in a way. Like they say, if you like just stay in one place, that's just like the first, not even the first page of the book. So a lot of my friends from Appleton stayed in Appleton, so it's like, all right, everything's peaceful. We don't want to go to like a neighborhood like Tommy is going to because he might get shot any day now. And then talking about me, it's like, oh, like it's Washington Park. There's so many things going on. It's always fun. People like great minds of the community are coming together. Even if there's like shooting here or there or like muggling here or there, it's like that can happen anywhere. So it's just normal. So I think I have gotten to see like a few more pages of the book, in what life is or in what a community is, or the world is, instead of just remaining at that one page, being like, okay, that's a bad neighborhood, never go into it. And so and with that, it comes with you gain so much from it. Like the way you think changes totally. The way you feel about certain things change totally. The way you feel about certain populations changes totally.
Do you think that your experience of safety or just like walking through the neighbourhood is maybe different from, say, your cousin who's a girl? I don't know.
I think it is. I mean, that's another like problem in itself. That's the play of power and sex, the play of being a girl versus a guy. So we need that like that city mind in ourselves, in our head all the time. Like you wouldn't want to be like a girl carrying a large purse walking like in a city. That's really dumb in a way because you would get robbed. But if you are just to talk about like walking, going out for a run, I feel like that's fine. Even though like there are bad people here in the neighborhood, there are also people who are watching out for you too.
When we interviewed Martina the other day, she was talking a lot about what it was important to her was, as a neighbourhood, is looking out for each other, and the lack of safety or like presence of crime is more to do with the lack of looking out for each other. Is that something you agree with? Or
I agree with that. And many like even like professors agree with that. Jane Jacob herself stated in her book, that he gave the ability for people to look out for each other, they would. And that's just human sense. Human people like to look at other people. And so if you give them the opportunity to look out for other people, they would. Me myself, if I look out for other people and I actually help them, then I know next time that they'll trust me and they'll look out for me also. So I do believe in that idea of caring for each other in the neighborhood, even though if we don't know each other. It just brings in a sense of community, a sense of bond.
Okay, that's all the questions I have to ask. You good, mate?
I think so.
Okay.
Right? Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Tony.